Welcome back to Love is Kimes, the Love is Blind recap show where me and my co-host David Dennis Jr. go over everything Love is Blind, or at least everything thus far in season 6. We're up to episode 11 right before the finale. David is back from Paris. Milkshake Duck is being served all over the internet right now. We are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all of the rumors around the contestants. We're going to do that later, and I will insert a clear spoiler warning. But before that, we are going to talk about this latest batch of episodes. David, how did you feel generally about this latest drop?
I texted Charlie before you saw it and when he was about to see it, and I said, this is like the Thanksgiving episode of The Bear, like in reality TV form. It was just all chaos, like nonstop chaos from beginning to end. All these intertwining storylines, dialogue that sort of like falls on top of each other, and jet skis. So like this was this was pure. They built this season. You rarely see like reality shows like this just build climactically like a scripted TV show. Like all of these things that we've been waiting for happened on this one, which I'm assuming is Lake Norman area in North Carolina, right by Davidson College. But like, this one beautiful place where hearts are broken and nothing good ever happens.
Truly beautiful. The lakeside property where they have their sort of reunion party. We finally get to see Jess and Jimmy interacting. Trevor is back in the picture. Sarah Ann in the flesh. Before we get to that, they really make us wait for that, by the way, this season. A couple of things happen that I do want to cover with you before we get to the party. Which, for starters, we see the upshot of the Jeramey and Laura fight that ended episode 9, where the affair of the iPhone or the tracking device or whatever, where Laura finds out that Jeremy gave them a couple names. Jeremy, we will get to Jeremy Ann in a bit, but the only scene that is notable is we see Jeremy talking to his own mother, telling her the story, and his mom is not on his side at all. I have to say, Love is Blind generally has usually pretty good showings for the family. Like usually they come across as pretty reasonable, and I think that's been the case thus far this season. There's more to come on that front, but Laura's family was sympathetic to Jeremy when she was being so rude to him, and on the flip side, when Jeremy tells his mom what he basically did, staying out late, the denying that he cheated, whatever, his mom is not on his side, and she comes across quite well.
His mom is basically like, I would have whooped your like she was basically like, I would have beat you for doing that, which was pretty cool. Like it was good to see that, and obviously his mom is privy to things that we were not privy to during the scene, which we'll get into. And so I'm just thinking about what's going through her mind about the few weeks of Jeremy's life that he was going through at the time when he told her this.
That's such a good point, and we will cover that in the internet portion of this show, the Milkshake Duck section. Okay, the other big thing that I do want to talk about in great detail is yet another massive Jimmy Chelsea blowout fight. Before the fight, she meets his family. Very Southern, by the way, very Southern.
Yes.
They love her. The family loves her. And this is kind of the push-pull generally of their relationship is like they have these scenes where it seems like they're a great match. Jimmy's all in. Everybody's great. And then we're not shown stuff. Like there's like kind of gaps in their relationship. And then we see a huge fight. And it's kind of hard almost connecting the two things. I do think that, so just to recap, they get in a massive fight. I'll do my best. As always with Chelsea, I struggle to capture what she perceives to have happened. But what I understand is that Jimmy went out briefly, not even that long. And
for an hour, apparently.
Our boy is in hell. And he wasn't meeting up with any of the women from the scene. It wasn't like a Sarah Ann situation. But some girls she knows from the season saw him And thus she was embarrassed because they saw him out without her. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts. Um and then she just keeps trying to start a fight about how he is texting people and he's out,
Mm,
but there's a lack of specifics. And he is like, "What are you doing? Like, this is ridiculous."
yeah.
He really stands up for himself in this
Mhm,
scene. And then we see the scene that was teased so much in the
mhm,
looking for the trailers. And I knew these sneaky Love is Blind editors were trying to mess with us. I knew it
yeah,
wasn't what we had hoped it would be. The "you effed her"
yeah,
comment, which we learn is not about Jess. It was never going to
mhm,
be about Jess.
yeah,
It refers to one of the female friends that they met. And this is
mhm,
a very pivotal point in the relationship in this season, David, because he alludes to an off camera discussion they had where she promised not to address that on
mhm,
camera, insinuating that he would not have brought those women onto the show if he had known that would be said. And he
yeah.
says, "You overstepped this boundary very clearly." And in that moment, I stood up and I gave him a slow clap at the end of the
Uh,
movie because it felt like he was finally showing some backbone.
yeah. Chelsea lying, man.
Okay, okay,
Chelsea be lying.
okay, okay.
So
Unpack it. Let's
so
get into
here's the
it.
thing.
Okay.
I don't think
There's
I
a lot.
do not think there's a lot of
There's a lot.
moments in this show where they have two very different recollections of things that happened,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Where she's like, "You didn't kiss me all day," and he's like,
Yes.
"No, actually, I kissed you," and she's like, "You twirled AD around." He's like, "No, I didn't twirl AD around," and she's like, "You didn't ask me to go out," and he's like, "I kind of did, but you were kind of bundled up in the bed, all this stuff, right?" I don't think anybody from that show saw that man out. I just don't think the way that he was
Oh,
like, "Who saw
yeah.
me?" And she was like,
Yeah,
"Mackenzie,"
yes.
like, just threw that name out there. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody saw that man out. She
Okay.
was just
Yes.
fishing to, like, say something. I don't think anybody saw him because clearly when she throws out, which is the thing, was like, "You were hanging out with Jess." He was like,
What
"What?
are you
Like,
talking
what is it? What are you talking about?" And somebody, like,
Yeah.
I don't think that whole scenario that
Yeah.
she drew up
Yes.
based on the fact that we do know that, there's some dubiousness in like some of the things that she says happening, i.e., people calling her that saying that she looks like Megan Fox all the
She
time.
she lies about a lot of things. This has
Yeah, she's right.
a through line of that has persisted this season. It is something that this is what bothers me the most about her. Again, it is
Mm,
not the insecurity is a tough watch, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not the insecurity because I do have empathy for that,
mm,
especially given the circumstances and well,
yeah,
just whatever. It's the fact that she's constantly kind of twisting reality, and in
yeah,
this fight, she she's like, she says she was misled, like he told her he was a homebody and that
yeah,
he didn't go out. Lady, we saw a scene where you were like, yeah, love a good cocktail bar. You guys
yeah,
literally bonded over doing what he just did. And
yeah.
he actually refers to it in the fight. But I feel like there's all these little moments like that, David, with her, where it's like, wait a second. And there's going to be where you're like, wait, is that really what happened? I don't think
Hmm.
that's what happened.
She just is so insecure about this man, and it's sort of like, I don't know if you watch Suits. You ever watch Suits? Like, Suits is basically based on this conceit that this dude, based on like white brilliance or whatever, didn't need to go to law school or pass the bar, and he's like this like fantastic lawyer, right? And so for the whole series, you're waiting for somebody to find out that he didn't pass the bar, and like everything falls down for these folks at Suits World, right? And so the big thing for her is the fact that she is like has to live with this lie that she told about
Yeah.
Megan Fox, and she cannot live with that. She's waiting. She's almost like waiting for the other shoe to drop
Yeah.
and waiting for this man to see that the person who actually looks more like the Megan Fox of whatever, this stereotype of beautiful woman, is like approaching, right? And so she is like in her mind. This dude was gone for 1 hour. And these are the things that were going through your mind, and you could not, like, you were pacing, you were freaking out about him running to this woman in the mass city of Charlotte because you cannot deal with like this truth or this reality coming out, and she's putting this man through hell because of
You it is, I think, a case study for the reality which of their relationship, which is it is based on this like original lie.
it. Yeah.
And it's tough because it's not a it's a white lie, sort of, and it's
Yeah,
not even a
yeah,
lie. Like, I'm sure someone has said that to her, but it's not. It's
yeah,
so let me rephrase that. It's not so much the lie as it is, um, that like because this is such a unique show, and these
yeah,
relationships are supposedly based purely not on seeing each other.
mm,
When you introduce something like that into their interactions early on, it takes on outsized significance. It is why
yeah,
you and I both believe it is a big part of why they ended up together as a couple, even though they might have been compatible in other ways. Clearly, they are, and it's really hard to move on from that.
yeah,
And I don't think it just feels like they never did. And I said clapped for him when he stood up for himself. I can very clearly imagine the conversation they had where he said, he told her probably
mhm,
before she met those women, which now
yeah,
casts that interaction in a totally different light. There's no way
right,
he waited until after meeting her.
mhm.
And for her to pull that out then on camera, who knows what their time off camera is like, how it's
Yeah,
defined, whatever. I would have walked out.
yeah.
And he does, and then he comes back and he forgives
So,
her.
but before we get, I have a question. I have a little gray area question here.
Yeah.
Was was his request fair? Was his request of her to say, like, let's like that original
Interesting.
conversation. I'm intrigued by that original conversation for him to say, "Hey, I have a friend. I text. We hang out. Yes, we had sex once or whatever, one time, whatever. But you cannot mention it as part of our relationship on the show." Right? Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't it feels like that. Now, maybe Chelsea should have said, "Whoa, hold up, like I would actually have an issue. Let's talk about this," or so. Who knows how that conversation went, but it just sort of seems like not the best way to go about that, to say like, "Here's my thing that I had that causes
Yeah.
problems in a lot of relationships,
Right.
and we're on a
Yeah.
relationship show, but like
That's interesting.
we can't
Yeah.
address this as part of our relationship,
I think
you know?"
that's actually it's a really good point. I think that's actually a very fair criticism of him because it's easy to imagine people who are on these shows setting boundaries with their partners about what they can
Mm,
or can't discuss, and those boundaries being very fair. Like,
mm.
oh, this is my mom. She has
Right.
this in her past. Don't bring
Mm,
it up. And if
mm,
they brought that up, that'd be really messed up. This is a little different because it is something that clearly does affect their relationship, to your
mhm.
point. It also, like, it was his decision to have these women on the show in the first place. He didn't have
Right.
to have a scene with, like, he didn't have to have this meeting on camera. So, to your
Which,
point,
as we mentioned, he's only been friends with them for 2
yes,
years.
I've
Like,
been
this is
thinking about
not
that ever since you said that. I've been thinking about that. It's not like a childhood friend, right?
Right, yeah.
And so if it mattered to him so much to not expose one of the women, fortunately there were two, so we don't know which one.
Yeah.
But if it mattered to him so much, then he probably shouldn't have had them on camera to begin with. So I think you're
Right,
right. I think that is fair. I don't think it's any it's like it was a matter of like cunning or something on his part. I
right,
think he just probably didn't think it through too much. Probably just wanted to have them on the show. They wanted to be on the
right.
show, but then he realized, oh, I don't want this part.
Mhm.
So I think you're right. I also think it sucks still that she said it. I think she was drunk. She says she
Yeah.
was drunk.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I could not believe he forgave her though, because it
Yeah.
really seemed like he was trying to end it. And she said she's more in love with him. They were drunk. He shouldn't walk away when the going gets tough, because he tells her, he's like, you overstep my boundaries. I'm leaving. I'm not
Mm.
getting married. I really thought it was over in that moment, David, and I was surprised that he stuck it out.
I thought it was done. I thought that was it. I thought we were, we were at the end of it, because obviously there's this criticism of Love Is Blind, or this thing that once you get to a certain marker, you have to get to the altar, and for
Yeah.
the show and all those things, that it may or may not be true or whatever. So I was like, maybe this is like, he's got to end this thing. Now we're done. And Chelsea broke out all of the like abusive partner 101 phrases that you do when you don't just duck and run when things get tough, like one little fight and this is the problem, this is what happens. I need to know that you're going to stick it through with me, like all of those like things that she did, it just it worked. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It worked. We talked about the way that she may be cracking his back and making his toes curl to keep him around, but it was just like a conversation that they had that he just like turned and said it's so hard not to forgive her. And I'm like, what did I just watch? How did this happen?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, we'll get to the party, but yeah, that was shocking to me.
Yeah.
Okay, AD and Clay, not a lot. He meets her family, talks more about how his parents' marriage failed. Her mom likes him, but she
Mhm.
also has a pretty good read on him. She can tell that he is immature,
Scared out of his mind.
scared out of his mind. He calls himself Ghetto Barack at one point. Ghetto Barack.
Yes, he calls him. Yes, there was the Barack
I'll
and
leave
Michelle
that for you.
again.
Yeah.
Again, checking all of the like Jay-Z, Beyonce, like, you know what I'm saying, like relationship goals, podcast speak boxes, and like as part of that is like we're gonna compare you to Barack and Michelle and all that stuff,
Mm.
and this idea of like, well, if they're together for 24 years, something had to be going right. That's not how it works, people. Like things can be going terribly wrong for the entirety. Like longevity does not mean that a relationship is good. Like you can, you know,
Yeah.
that's very much
It's
like the
facile.
internet way that we
Yeah.
talk about relationships that doesn't have any sort of depth to it.
Is Clay thinking that he could be like Barack Obama in a marriage situation similar to Chelsea comparing herself to Megan Fox? Is on the same level?
Or maybe in the way that, you know, Michelle Obama famously what a year ago was like, I hated this man for 10 years.
Yeah.
But that's what relationships are all about, people. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how did this
Yeah.
happen? Maybe that's what he sees this future.
I don't know. What is the white people equivalent of Barack and I feel like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. White people love love them some Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. That's all we
They
got.
Yeah, I think maybe it's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce now. Maybe that's the white
I want you to
Barack
be
and Michelle.
the Travis to my Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy and Johnny, as usual, not a lot more. She meets the dad. There was like early on, she says, you know, if my
Mm.
dad doesn't approve, I'm like, wah. The dad will approve.
Right.
Of course, he approves. Uh, he does tell the dad he reiterates his desire to retire early and teach the kids surfing, which remains a little red flag. Oh, actually, I skipped something with Clay that I didn't want to address with you. Pardon me, that I did think was interesting. Of course, during the Amy and Johnny section, I go back to a more interesting thing that happened, which was Clay reiterated again, and this has been a theme, that he feels like he might not be the right partner for her.
Yeah.
And he says he watched Love Is Blind.
I was just
And
about to
yes. And he was like, yeah, no, these men were saying the right things. And I
Yeah.
was like, which season are we talking about here? Like, who are you? Because I know it wasn't season 5 that had you saying
Right.
that. So
I'm just imagining him going back. He's watching Love Is Blind like game tape. Like he's just watching like all the people like just seeing what they're saying. Like I was so like what were you watching? Like did he know that has he ever seen this show before? Like does he know anything about the show? And was AD like this is how we do things here? Like why was he watching old Love Is Blind episodes during the Love Is Blind taping? I'm dying to know.
yeah, you would think you would watch it before and
Right.
then decide if you want to be on the show. I gotta think he watched because when he talks about it, you know, he's like, I don't know if I can be like these guys. I gotta think Brett and Tiffany. He was watching
gotta
our
be
guy
it.
Brett, who
Yeah.
if you're gonna study someone's game tape, that's the one.
Mm.
You know, it's pretty flawless tape out there. No holes in that man's game. He was hitting all his
Right.
checkdowns, making full field reads, not turning the
Yeah.
ball over at any point. The biggest ding on his draft report was that he didn't like his suit at the wedding. That was the only drama, if you recall. They were
Yeah.
able to get that entire season out of our guy Brett.
Yes.
But
Brett was hot about that suit, by the way.
so bad.
It was so
Not a
adorable.
Brett,
Yeah.
not a Brett
Yeah.
type. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can watch Tom Brady game film all you want, but that can only do so much.
That's pretty much it. So there's not really anything. So we get to the party. Let's get to the party. This is finally here.
Was it what Amy and Johnny Googled vasectomies, which is I think is important an important
They've addressed
development.
this. I was gonna hit it at the beginning of that part. They've addressed people are some of the commenters, by the way, love the comments. Thank you so
Uh,
much to our engaged and vibrant commentary at we're a bit defensive of Amy and Johnny and us roasting them for not being aware of we were roasting the American education system, to be
yes,
clear.
it really was. George W. Bush should answer for his crimes for
We like Amy and John. They're great together. All right. There's
yes.
just not that much to talk about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the party. Da-da-da-da. We're finally here.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
so pumped. So I don't know if the producers tell them to arrive at different times.
Yeah, yeah.
So well produced. This show is so well produced generally.
Yeah.
So it starts off, Laura, who is kind of the queen mean bee, is
Mhm.
there. Chelsea's there. AD, Amy, who are like the core four. She's telling them
Uh,
about the fight. She says she hasn't talked to Jeramey in like 3 days. He shows
mhm.
up. It's
Yeah.
amazing. You watch wrestling. I feel like it felt like a wrestling, like a WWE moment. This whole thing felt like constant WWE moments of these people showing up.
It was the Royal Rumble. New contestant comes to the ring every 90 seconds. You get to the ring, you don't know who it is. Their music plays, the crowd goes wild. You're eliminating people off the top rope. And then you don't know who's going to make it to the end. And at the end, somebody's like pointing to the sign and saying, I'm going to
Mm.
WrestleMania. It was just like that.
Well, he shows up. That's dramatic. We'll get to that. Trevor shows up. Haircut, no more mullet.
Mm,
Looking good.
mhm.
If not for well, there's stuff out there about Trevor now. In the show, though, Trevor
Uh,
continuing to crush his edit.
yeah.
And then Jess shows up with Mackenzie. Okay, I gotta say this. My husband and I were laughing at the
Mm.
very gratuitous shots of Jess's body.
Oh yeah, I was doing a rewatch today, and I was like, "Holy smokes, we were getting we were getting everything." We-
You're like, I should be laughing because this is, I mean, it's like not great, but she would like walk up the steps and the camera would like follow her up.
right, right.
I was like,
There was the
yeah.
There was the like bra adjustment one. There was the like this one that was like tight in, and it was like the cameramen were having. I think we need to. There's like all this talk about Love Is Blind, and they like making sure they show that people are eating while
Yeah.
they're drinking. We need to see what the cameramen are doing because them dudes were like hopped up on I don't know ecstasy or something, and they were just like having the time of their
Well,
lives.
I like to think of it. Let me give some credit to the artistic merit of the show. Perhaps they
Uh,
were trying to put us in the mind state of one Jimmy Presnell and to think about this scene, from
yeah.
some like some real directing going on.
Mm,
So they talk. So let's get there. So everybody's trying to play it cool and act like it's not a
yeah.
big deal that they're all the same. Chelsea in particular is like, whatever, I don't care. Not like we
Yeah.
recently had a blowout fight where I imagined a
The
thing
same
like it would
Chelsea
happen.
who was so insecure about Jess went hooga at at Trevor when he popped up. It was like, oh, he's thick and all he's a big beefy guy and all this stuff. And she was the one that was actually losing her mind
Double
when Trevor
standards.
popped up.
Double
Yeah.
standards. Yeah. I mean, she talks to him. The just Jimmy interaction happens pretty quickly. So
Mhm.
they're kind of like avoiding each other. And she's like, all
Yeah.
right, let's talk. So they talk finally. And it's
Yeah.
on camera. And it is charged. Let me
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
We were watching this scene like gripping our
Yeah.
sofa because it's like in the air, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you feel like just insane chemistry. I want to stay.
Yeah.
I was like, they should leave. They should go leave. You guys should hook up. He says she's the smartest person he's ever met, which I believe. He is
Yes.
terrified of her. She handles it like so. I think the reason I say it, like I do agree that she's smart, is I think the
Mm,
way she handled this is so genius
yeah.
because this interaction, if you transcribe everything she said to him, it's fine. She's
Yeah,
innocent.
yeah,
She would not get in trouble. Like when
yeah.
she talks about, I gassed myself up with the EpiPen speech
Yeah.
and
Which she
I've
quoted
been
directly. Which she quoted the speech directly later and knew exactly what she said. And she's like, I should have said it. But she knew exactly what she said.
she said, I've been practicing my handshake with you.
You're right.
Nothing she said on its face
Mm,
would signify she's anything other than a girl's girl. But watching it,
Yeah.
that girl, she knew what she was doing. She knew what she
Yeah,
was
and
doing.
throughout this whole process, which is all like, she's never said anything bad about Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Good
never been
point.
a single moment where, because the whole thing could turn on her if she does this whole like, "Are you serious?" You know, like
Yes.
her, you know, that sort of
Yes.
thing that she's never done. She's always like, spoken highly. Even she said, treat her right, do it, like, treat her well. I'm glad y'all got the fam thing
She's
together.
everything.
Yeah, she's right. She's everything. She's all
Sorry.
that. But also, sometimes you ain't got to say it when you pull up to the pool looking like that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You ain't got to say,
Again,
a word.
she knows
Yeah.
what she's doing. Let me just ask you this. Did you think, because she also, like, again, she kind of leaves, she very subtly, I feel,
Yeah.
insinuates she's still drawn to him, that
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
interest. Did you think watching this that anything would come of it?
No, I kind of, so I'm sort of, that energy was there, that flirty energy, that it was big, like first Christmas break back from like college back home, and
Yeah,
you're like, see that person thing. There was that sort of energy, but I'm not totally sold on like how much she's actually into Jimmy now. You know,
yeah.
like in terms of like being in an actual relationship, or she's probably still attracted to him. She probably still loves him and has that bond at the pool. But I'm not sure.
No,
I'm
I
sure
hear
she's
you.
looking at him, and she may not think of him as like her actual person when she sort of sees him and knows him a little bit better. So I kind of felt that. I kind of felt Jimmy was actually like pretty. He did say, you were my number one. You still are, which not great. But I kind of felt like he was still, moderately respectful. I didn't feel like he was like
I agree.
Jeramey, So I think but as the conversation went on, I kind of felt it felt safer than I originally thought.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of it is because of what you said. Like, I don't think she was like, I'm gonna do everything to make this happen." I think
Yeah,
she is very good at being on television and
yeah, yeah,
very conscious of what she says from start to finish. I think that's been the case. Um, it was a
hmm
bravura performance.
yeah,
But yeah, I watched it thinking they have more chemistry than, like, him and
mhm,
Chelsea or whatever, but, like, I didn't think anything would come of it either, especially because he, again, at this point, I'm watching and I'm thinking, like, I don't understand why, but this man is, like, very tied to his current relationship. Like, if he
yeah,
got through
yeah,
that fight, 2 fights, and he's
yeah,
still in, he's not
yeah,
leaving now. Chelsea talks to Trevor. It's pretty, um uneventful. They're
yeah,
flirty too, though, like you said,
yeah,
and she tells him he was her number one until the end. She
yeah,
says life would be so fun and easy with you. She mentions the fight with Jimmy. She says she was, quote, dirty martini drunk. So,
yeah, hmm
and she says she thinks of him because she got everything she needed from him every day. Mentions the double tap bracelet.
hmm
Again, I felt actually pretty similar to how I felt watching Jimmy and Chelsea, where it was like a very flirty energy,
yeah,
probably more compatible, but I didn't think they were gonna run away with each other.
yeah. I kind of made me like turned me a little bit on like Jimmy and Chelsea. I was like, oh, maybe they actually do. Maybe there's like something there where they didn't. It didn't feel, you know, it didn't feel volatile. It felt like they were both secure in their situation. In those conversations, of course, there's like a little bit more, right after that. But during that conversation, it felt like okay, they really do love each other.
Well, there was that moment where he she calls Amy and Johnny the strongest couple, and he gets, like, weirdly offended by it,
Yeah,
and I didn't know how to read that. First of all, they're obviously the strongest couple, like,
right, right, right.
but, I was like, "Is he trying to pick a fight?" I
That's what
guess
I was like. I didn't know if he was trying to pick a fight in front of Jess or something. I didn't know
right.
what was going on, or maybe he was just drinking and just kind of was a little
That
sensitive.
that was what I thought.
Yeah,
I generally I think they drink a lot.
yeah, yeah. I do.
Um,
Yeah,
I just had trouble getting at this point, I'm like, I don't understand this relationship. I don't know why they're in it together. I don't know what Jimmy
right.
wants. I don't know if they're gonna get married. I have no freaking clue what's happening. So
Yeah. The
fine.
whole thing, it did make me think of there was a meme that popped up uh in a Facebook discussion board a few weeks ago that was like, how soon after a breakup do you have sex with the person you were accused of having sex with? And I was like, we might have to test that out, so we'll see.
Well, do we get there? Well, okay, wait. Before we get there to the couple that certainly
Mm,
fits that bill, or the love
yeah.
triangle, a couple other notable things that happened at the party. Amy is asked if she would say yes. Shocker, she says yes. Matt comes up, and I
Mhm.
thought this was kind of interesting. They talk about him, and I forget who said this, but a couple people were like, "Yeah, he's attractive. He looks like Clark Kent."
Yeah, yeah,
AD's in that conversation.
yeah.
I found that I was like, I don't know about that, but we'll talk about Matt in a second because there's some
Yeah,
offline stuff going on with, or online, pardon me, stuff going on with him.
yeah.
Um, okay, that's pretty much it. So let's get to the meat of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Jeramey shows up.
Mhm,
Sarah Ann shows up.
mhm.
Um, so I'm trying to get the right order in which all of this happens because a lot happens, and it's not just involving the two of them.
Yeah.
So first, we get Jeramey and Laura finally having this confrontation. It's the first time they
Mhm,
talked in a few days. He tries to turn it on her, like, "I sent you
mm.
these texts and you were so mean to me and whatever," and I was just
Yeah,
like, "Come on, bro, you cheat,
yeah,
you screwed up, and
yeah,
you really never took ownership for it. You suck." But then she
yeah,
sucks too.
yeah.
In fact, you can tell she thought, maybe you can't tell, but my perception was that when she's talks, she calls him a con artist. She uses this
Mm.
line twice that she wants him to kick rocks with open-toed shoes, and I was like, "You practiced this in front
Yeah,
of
you were
her
ready
a
for it.
little
Yeah,
too many
yeah,
times for my taste." She thought it
yeah,
was gonna be like a girl boss moment, like Deep
yeah.
D and Shake, and it was not, because Trevor, I had a moment again, we'll go to Trevor, where he says, I forget who he's talking to. He's like, I'm on Laura's side, but she's kind of mean. And I
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
like,
she's
yes,
kinda
she is mean.
she is
Calls
very
him a con artist.
some
Yeah.
people fight mean. Some people, like,
Yeah.
fight mean, and, like, other people just, like, break up at the meanness, you know? And so, like but people just live in this world of, like, fighting mean,
Yeah.
and, like, they use breakup language when they're trying to fight, and I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know if she was, like, actually how done she actually was, because when he said, "I already packed up your stuff," she was like, "What?" You know,
Yeah.
like, and I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know. Maybe she was just thought she could, like, some people think they can fight their way back into your life. I don't know if that's where she was with it.
I too was trying to get a read on
Mm,
whether she thought the relationship was over, or she just felt like
mhm.
she had to stand up for herself on camera and have this
Yeah,
moment. You're not man enough. He's also infuriating in this fight. He's like
yeah,
smirking in a really obnoxious way. Both of these, no side's good. I want to be clear.
yeah,
I'm team no one in this. Someone who is team Laura is AD. She says, "I'm
mhm,
team Laura," and she kind of goes after Sarah Ann. I wanted to get your
yeah,
read on this because this is another one of the kind of the side things happening. She sort of confronts Sarah Ann about DMing Jeramey, which we talked about
yeah.
in the last episode. And well, AD says, "Isn't it outlandish to DM a man who's engaged?" And Sarah Ann's like, "Well, he left it open." And
Mm.
um, she's like, "Why are you interrogating me?" And AD says, "I'm Team Laura." Um, what did you think of this? We'll get to the Sarah Ann side, but from AD like getting involved.
It felt weird. It felt sort of out of place. It kind of felt like producers were like, somebody needs to do this, have this conversation. And AD
Mm.
was like, "I'll do it." You know, like, and that's what it didn't feel like. It didn't feel like she was like
Not like
really
going on 2
initially.
episodes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was like it just felt like she wasn't like really tied into like.
Mm.
I don't think that was something that she would like actually really care about in real life. She was kind of like initially the fight was she was kind of like, "That's crazy," you know. And I think that that's really her actual sentiment. But like the passive aggressiveness and the like way that that conversation went, that felt like the most
Yeah.
reality TV show
Yes, it felt
conversation that we've
very,
had
like,
this
house
season. Yeah.
stage kinda weird.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say there's a very clear girl group going on
Mhm,
with this show. I do think,
mhm.
like, AD, Laura, Chelsea, heck, Jess, even
Yeah,
though there's kinda different, they're all, like, tight in a way
yeah,
that, maybe is different from earlier seasons. Amy too. And AD is very, like, everybody loves her. Like, she's very
yeah.
social. She is not removed. So I do wonder if this was her just trying to be a friend,
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. It was odd. And
yeah,
Sarah Ann was like, well, okay, this brings us to the final moment, which is one of the funniest moments in the history
yeah.
of the show. By the way, season 6, massive for jet skis. The
Uh-huh.
most I've thought about jet skis maybe my whole life. maybe since Eastbound and Down. So first we have Clay, who rents jet skis for a living, and then we have a scene where after Jeramey and Laura throw down, and after Sarah in AD talk, Jeramey and Sarah pulls Sarah and she's like, why everyone's making me out to be a floozy? Do my feelings not matter? And then he's like, no, let's jet ski. And then they jet ski, and it's like a GoPro style.
Look, this is the thing I want to talk about. Is because not only did they jet ski, like the camera crew had to set up cameras on the jet skis. So Laura is sitting on the island and she's watching a camera crew set up cameras on the jet skis so they could get on the jet ski and ride around on the jets. Like, this all had to happen because I could not believe that there were cameras set up there. Like, there had to be a production meeting that was like, hey, they want to go on jet skis. How do we set up the camera for them to go on jet skis? And everybody's like, what are they doing? They're setting up for the jet ski ride.
What is it about jet skis that are so disrespectful? like if they had gone on a sailboat, for example, I don't think it would have been as bad. Something about these two people jet skiing away from Laura.
And Jeramey has been, as you mentioned, has been very, like, stone cold, all that stuff. He's on the like the pure, like he was like a child at Chuck E. Cheese for the first time. I've never seen that much joy in a human's life than Jeramey on the jet ski. And then you cut to Laura and she's crying her eyes out. And then they cut back to Jeramey and he's
And you know what? Because Laura's been so mean at this point, this is another. Yeah, I'm not. Or I said earlier, both sides bad. It's very funny. It's how the episode ends. I was cracking up, and
I have some for you though. I have some for you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, no.
As we know about Sarah Ann and her political leanings, I want to say that I haven't seen this amount of cheating from a Patriot since Deflategate. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. There's 2 Tom Brady references on this show. I do want to ask you something. We talked about this when it happened, which is something I think is worth discussing. Was Sarah Ann actually in the wrong? Because basically, she says as much to AD, and I was texting you about this because I was like, you know what? I'm not sure how I feel about this. She was like, my feelings are valid too, and she basically said without saying, y'all been together 2 weeks. Like, you are coming at me like I'm this home wrecker. What home? It's a fake home.
right.
And I gotta say, I don't find her particularly likable, but that's not a totally invalid point.
Yeah, I mean, like when it made me think of like the ultimatum, especially with the women, like when they were just sort of like when you do the ultimatum and they live together and they start referring to each other as like my new like my fiance, or like we're married,
my trial wife,
like, my trial, like, and they just say my wife and all, and it's like y'all just live together for a little bit. There was no anything, and people buy into the experiment. But at the end, like, Sarah Ann was like, y'all a reality show engaged. Like, let's be real. Like, this is a reality show.
Yes.
This is like a reality show thing. Like, that's what's going on. And like, I like this dude. Y'all just met. Like, bring it on. You know what I'm saying? Y'all proposed. I've seen each other. I want them. Give them to me.
And you can see why AD, who's also in this circumstance, is like, how dare you question the sanctity of our 6-week engagement?
Right, because she's bought into it more than anybody else. Like, she's talked about how much she's bought into this experiment and all this stuff more than anybody else. And Sarah Ann's like, actually, let's break the fourth wall. What are you guys really?
Yeah, and like, I think there's some validity to that. Again, don't like any of the parties involved particularly, but points were made. Points were made. That's all I have to say. And that's where we end this episode. So, let's do will they get married right now, because there's still some couples and it is still very much up in the air.
I want jet skis. I want jet skis. I want to go jet skiing. It has never looked that fun in my entire life. Like, they need to, like, what is it, Sea-Doo or whoever it is needs to just get that footage and do some commercials and like put it on.
Our guy Clay needs to get that footage licensed for his jet ski rental business. Okay, speaking of Clay, at this point, Clay and AD, will they say I do?
Yeah. The sauce has been lost. It's sad. That's the project. That is like she is going to fix the hoe until he can't be broken anymore.
Also,
So
they made it through 2 episodes with no drama. Really, at this point, it's
yeah,
been like 4 or 5, so
yeah.
that's pretty impressive in and of itself. Okay, Johnny and Amy. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. I don't. Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. Whatever.
They have stands, which confuses
happily ever after, or whatever.
Right. Okay, this one I am very curious to see your response. Chelsea and Jimmy.
I'm still no. On this one.
Really? Please explain.
I'm still no on this one. I'm just no on it. I just feel like
Something's off.
at some point, this dude's got to. At some point, this dude's got to wake up. You know, like at some point, something's got to happen here. Like whether he wants Jess or not, or like whatever, like he's got to know there's better for him out in this world. You know, and because he's seeing it, and you know, she's been lying to this dude. She has been lying to this man since they met, you know, and there was true love there. I think it's going to, like, I think on the last batch of episodes, I was like, no way, he's going to move on. He's going to be fine. It's okay. But now it's kind of like, this seems like it's going to actually hurt, and I just don't see it.
So I screwed up a little bit because these episodes don't actually end with the jet skiing date. They do the couple dates, which are so boring. We don't even have to talk about them. You know, it's like whatever. Like Adie and Clay paint sneakers. Johnny and Amy go camping. And he reveals that he learned a vasectomy is not easily reversible.
Right.
They go wedding dress shopping. It's boring, right? There's nothing.
Wedding dress shopping is the worst, and that goes to the Sarah Ann thing. Like y'all are doing a TV show.
Exactly. The only notes I had from the wedding dates was Jimmy's has a friend who looks like Carson Wentz, and Johnny has a friend who looks like Jared Goff. Jimmy and Chelsea on their date, like this is why I said yes though, because they're like after the lake party, they they do an ice sculpture. That's their date or something, right?
Yeah.
And
they make wedding rings out of ice. Like they're planning.
But
yeah,
they seem like they're gonna say yes at this point, Dave. I know you're not buying it, but I'm like, he has seen the worst of this woman. I don't believe it could get worse, and he's still there. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, he wants to get married.
I think this is the altar shock. This is the last. You know, what was the couple that had the big fight before?
The crazy guy, Shane.
Yeah,
and
the guy
Natalie.
who has some sort of chemical imbalance.
We never see what happened.
We never see the fight.
Yeah, so the next one, they're like, horrible fight.
Right. It was like the final murder in No Country for Old Men, where you don't actually see it, but you know it happened. And so and they have this sort of that, like, we're gonna get this thing where they're at the altar thing is gonna be the ending here.
So look, right now, if you don't want to know anything that's happening outside the show, anything that potentially could tell you it's not actually a spoiler, but like might give you some clues, either skip this or stop watching now, because it's time for internet sleuthing. All right.
Yeah.
So the main things we have learned.
Sponsored by Sea-Doo.
Sponsored by Reddit. What we have learned. Let's start with Jeramey. Okay, so I want to make sure I have this right, because there's been a lot of information. What I believe we know is that he was engaged weeks before filming.
Which was the top of last year, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's come out and said that he broke it off before the show, and he told everyone in the show, and it just wasn't shown for some reason, that he was recently engaged. There was some confusion about the timeline with his house, because he says, he also says that Love is Blind reached out to him, recruited him. People were like, well, but you didn't sell your house until the spring of 2023. And he's like, we broke up. She moved out, or whatever. Someone moved out. We listed the house. All told, the big takeaway is that he was engaged not long before shooting this show. I don't think ethically there's anything wrong here. It doesn't seem like it was cheating or whatever. The timeline lines up, but the timeline is compressed, David.
It is compressed, and he is like, the picture that was the reveal is him holding a child and like with his then fiance. And we do know in the pods he did say, I moved into a new house, I wanted more space, and I wanted to do this. Not like I moved to a new house because like I recently, called off my engagement and I want to get married, like literally what, 6-8 weeks, couple months after calling off my last engagement. And he's talking to his poor old mom at the park who just witnessed him get an engagement called off and moved. And he's like, yep, was out with another woman who I almost fell in love with, and now my engagement to this other lady is over at the same time. We're talking 2 engagements and 1 maybe affair and a wild jet ski ride over the course of like 3 months. The boy is active.
It's a lot. Does knowing that inform how you feel about Laura in any way and her suspicions as it pertains to Sarah Ann and how she handled that?
No, I think that Laura's, as mean as she is, has gotten a huge fan base for like the way that she handled the like Columbo style detective work of like letting him lie and then revealing. Because one of the things that we noticed that people talked about also on the internet is that he had his Apple Watch on, and that he left his phone in the car and thought that he would do it, but the Apple Watch. And after she catches him, he checks the Apple Watch and he's like, oh, damn it. then that screws him up. So I think she has a little bit of a fan base there. I don't think this changes much for her. It just kind of makes Jeramey look like some ain't right there.
The other thing that has been revealed, and we can actually say this at this point because of how these episodes end, like, Laura and Jeramey ain't getting married, y'all. Sarah Ann has been posting TikToks that the internet has noticed appear to have been taped at Jeramey's American Psycho house.
At Jeramey's house. Yep. Yeah.
They might be together. We'll find out the reunion. The reunion, live reunion. Very exciting. Netflix, get at us. We're available.
We'll be there. Charlotte's just 4 hours away, baby. I'm there. I am there.
Okay. 2 other big things from the internet. Another one. This is the golden boy Trevor brought himself down. We are not Team Trevor anymore.
Right.
We're very anti-Trevor.
The milkshake duck of the episode.
Yeah, this one actually is a lot worse to me than the Jeramey one. So an ex-girlfriend of his, another bodybuilder, posted texts which haven't been corroborated in his defense. It's not that hard to fake texts. Basically saying he ghosted her, like went on the show, and then there's no text. I believe there's no text to this along this line of or what she revealed, which is she says that he threatened to leak videos of them if she went public. Look, if that's true, that's awful.
Yeah.
As far as ghosting her, again, like, I don't want to, like, he hasn't responded to it, so still more to be, I think, come out on that front. If any of it's true, it's and bad. I don't know if I can say that word. And yeah, definitely he had such a good edit. He came in this episode, he comes off so well at the reunion, but I'll be curious to see if he addresses it at all at the Netflix reunion, because it's pretty serious.
And also, like, the post, like the TikTok that he posted about the dog and coming back.
Oh yeah, my dog died, Chelsea. She died the day that Chelsea dumped me. And
which apparently that video is no longer on the internet. So not quite sure why that is the case, but the text messages did indicate that there was something that did actually happen to some extent, that there, something about the dog and all that. But if the text messages, are real, but that, that was just that also furthered this Trevor, like, nice guy thing where he was just like, my poor dog and all that stuff. And now the video is
what? Okay. Assuming that there's some either entire truth to this account or some degree of truth, why do people think they can get away with this? Like, I don't understand the logic. Like, why would he think that he could ghost someone, that she would be mad and that she wouldn't go public in some way? That's confusing to me.
It is, and also this is a Love Is Blind, like it's combine time, and like there needs to be a little bit better scouting over at the Love Is Blind. Like when so I'm an avid Married at First Sight person, and they comb through, like they
Yeah.
make sure they've had what 16 seasons, six couples or whatever per season, and I think maybe two or three times that people have briefly interacted with each other before they got married. Like they
Mm.
are deep into like making sure that this is curated in the best way possible. Obviously, it's a little tricky when you have like 20 people per pod and all that stuff, but you can't have situations where you have people who were just engaged coming onto the show, or like
Yeah.
last season, people who actually used to date each other, and
Well,
basically were living
I
together,
think they
and
wanted
how they
that
were able.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like and that's part of it too. Is like if that's what you want to do, then like let's like be honest about what kind of show we're doing if we're trying to do a Love Is Blind thing. But there needs to be a little bit better like in depth scouting.
Speaking of Uche, who you were talking about people who used to be together, Uche and Lydia,
Yeah,
season 5. Brian, who is behind the scenes here, when we were talking about what tape was Clay studying, he was like, "What if it was Uche's? What if he's just in Uche's scan?" That would be like a prospect being like Johnny Manziel in the NFL. I'm gonna just really repeat that playbook. We'll see. There's more on that front. I'm very curious. I'm curious. I mean, golly, this is setting up for quite the reunion. Beyond the couples
yeah,
who are remaining on the show, even these guys, like I want to know: are Jeramey and Sarah Ann together? How does Jeramey
yeah.
Ann address the engagement? How does Trevor address any of this? Very interesting. The one person who's our final sort of internet story that I want to talk about is Matthew,
Mm,
who has come out and said that the editing of his scenes was misleading.
yeah,
He alludes to having become sober, and now that made him awkward and anxious. I think a couple of the other contestants confirmed that his editing claim, there was some truth to that because he is shown, it makes it look like he walks out on some dates.
yeah.
And I can't remember, maybe it was Sarah Ann or someone who was like,
It
no,
was
it didn't,
Sarah Ann.
yeah,
It
it
was
didn't
like it seemed
actually
like he
happen.
walked up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
thought that was interesting. I don't feel the sobriety aspect. I think it can justify the nervousness. I don't think it
yeah.
justifies him purportedly saying the same
Telling
stuff
two
to
women the exact
Amber.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, although I have a feeling because that wasn't shown, he is
Mm,
going to try to parse out the differences. So
yeah.
Amber's kind of the missing piece there.
And I would
Hopefully,
venture to
yeah,
guess that she's not going to be like that. She's not part of this at
she's
all.
out.
Like yeah, she's out. We talked about that. That's possible that she just didn't want any of the pod footage shown, and that's why it wasn't in there or something. Like
Mm.
there's some sort of, and she
Yeah.
ducked out. She bounced. Like there may be something there that she's just not don't want to be part of this at all.
I saw a totally unsubstantiated rumor that she also had, like, she was engaged or something. I don't know. So we'll see. But I do hope we get to see more with him. I feel like he might
Yeah,
get a sort of redemptive moment just based on how everybody talks about him. Like even AD, the way they talk about him doesn't seem like anyone holds ill will towards him, and he
yeah.
obviously got a pretty bad at it. So that is where things stand at the moment. As always, we will wrap with my power rankings.
Oh, and also there's Jessica. There's this Jessica. Photos have come out. Jess and
Oh,
possibly being that she is going to be on what's the
Oh, I thought you meant Jess and Johnny at the airport. I was like,
no,
please.
no, no, that not that. No,
Uh,
that's not a thing.
Perfect match.
J-
Yeah,
Jess is on Perfect
Trevor
Match.
too.
Trevor's on Perfect Match. That filmed apparently what 5 months ago. Jess is with some guy who I'm not totally familiar with. They've been seen hanging out. Who's kind of the guy
He
seems to be sort of
sucks.
a
He's from Too
yeah.
Hot to Handle, which is the reality show that Jess probably should have been on. It feels like
Oh
she.
yeah, yeah, that guy. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was. That's where he's from. Yeah, he is a d bag, and just may throw away some of her goodwill by partnering with
Per-
this seemingly loser guy. Which she seems maybe too. She
I don't
probably
think
could
he
have gotten her
cares.
own
Yeah,
reality show. She
I
could
think
have got her own reality show after
she's
this.
in it for the continued Netflix success. Godspeed. The Perfect Match, if you guys haven't watched, is the Netflix show where all everyone who didn't find love on the various Netflix shows tries to find love with each other. It is truly craven. David and I both watched season 1.
We did, and which featured one of the worst supervillains in that we have ever seen on TV since like Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Like we were talking, like she was pure
A
unadulterated
menace.
evil, and somebody you should definitely tap into.
Okay. Well, that transitions me to I gotta go atop. This is everyone who was in these 2 episodes. I gotta
Mhm.
go top of the power rankings.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
came back again, start to finish. Truly finished the season as the 1 seed, started as the 1
Yeah.
seed, wall to wall, never fell in the rankings. Isn't with Jimmy by all accounts.
Yes.
Matt, as we
Yeah.
discussed, handled that interaction masterfully. Just
Yeah.
what a
Top
performance.
top pick from start Wimbenyama of the entire. Everybody's tanking for Jess right now.
This is more a reflection of how everyone else has fallen in my estimation, but I have to give Amy
Yeah.
and Johnny spots 2 and 3.
Bullied by the comment section. They they have shamed us
Also,
and
well,
put them 2 and 3.
Johnny appears to have realized the medical side effects of or the fact that he shouldn't have a vasectomy, so he gets some credit for that. Okay, this
Yeah.
might surprise you, but pretty good 2
Mm.
episode run for Clay, especially
Yeah,
as
not
every other man on this show just crumbles to dust. He's hanging
yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
He's hanging in there, ghetto Barack. His business should be booming now.
Thriving.
Jet ski business should be going well.
Speaking of jet skis, Sarah Ann, because she came back, she
Yeah.
got her man, and people like me and David were like, points were made.
Hey,
Not angry
hey,
at her.
the game is the game. So
Okay, so I dropped a D, pardon me, because getting involved in petty drama, I don't know. Otherwise fine, but not her best showing.
yeah, just the level of passive aggressive awkwardness just made me want to skip that scene, and I didn't like
I didn't like it. Okay, so now we are into the mud.
it.
This is tough. This is like ranking, like the NFC
Yes.
South at the end of the year. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. Somebody's got to win this division. Who are the Bucks of
Right.
this? Because we're looking at Chelsea, Trevor now, Laura, and Jeramey are the
Oof.
remaining contestants. I know it's super rough. I'm gonna go. People are mad at me again. I'll go Laura and then Jeramey, just because I think Laura is coming out of all of this with somewhat of an advantage in the eyes of viewers, even though I dislike her profoundly.
Yeah.
Jeramey, I spelled his name wrong.
His name does not deserve to be spelled correctly, so it's okay.
Jeramey sucks too, but
Yeah.
it looks like he
You
may
know,
have found a
Laura.
woman. So
Yeah. Yeah. And just the amount of joy that he experienced in the water, we should give him some credit for that. I've never seen, like, I aspire to that level of happiness one day because
so
that
great.
was incredible.
Finally, Chelsea at 9, and then I had to put our guy Trevor at 10. He's no longer our guy. We reject
Yeah.
Trevor. We'll see what happens at the reunion, but the stories are pretty bleak, pretty bad.
If we're what a heel turn. If we're talking wrestling, this was an incredible heel turn by Trevor to be a villain all of a sudden. What a letdown.
I
We
forgot.
believed in you, Trevor.
I was rooting for you, Tyra.
Right.
I left out Jimmy. I'll put Jimmy
Oh yeah.
like right here, below AD and above Laura, because that man is in hell.
Yeah. That
Hell.
poor. Yeah. But super duper, like, a lot of kudos to him for handling himself as well as possible, because everybody thought that his, like,
Yeah.
entire spirit would crumble when he
Yeah.
saw Jess. Everybody thought that would be the actual end of his relationship, was
Yeah.
when he saw her, and he held it down as much as anybody could possibly hold it down in the face of that woman and the current state of his relationship.
All right, next week, the finale. Let's go.
The finale. Yes, indeed. And we'll be in a couple weeks. We'll be hosting the reunion show. So.
See you then.